We're heading for PMQs here at Talk, the home of common sense. We're the antidote to idiocy and the home of common sense. I'm not sure how much we're going to get in the House of Commons. Keir Starmer's already on his feet for a Prime Minister's question. It's his first in quite a few weeks. First clash with Kemi Badenoch in quite a few weeks. We're going to get the reactions of Claire Pearsall and Peter Cardwell to that. Also coming up in this hour, as no doubt will come up at PMQs, this extraordinary welfare defeat stroke victory last night. But also going to be talking about Donald Trump visiting the new Florida detention centre dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. Is that what we need for our asylum seekers and failed economic migrants here in the UK? Plus the Bank of England is accused of wokery yet again, planning to drop having historical figures such as Winston Churchill or Jane Austen on banknotes and trying to sort of reflect modern diverse issues. Deep sighs, everybody. Before we get to the chamber, they will take, obviously, live questioning between Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer. But he's been yapping away, I've got to be honest, the Prime Minister, for quite some time already. Delighted to welcome Peter Cardwell to the studio, talk presenter, political commentator and star of a kneecap video.
Finally made it, Julia.
The act that everyone was concerned about at Glastonbury. Well played. And of course, Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor, also here. Now, I will very rudely interrupt you as soon as Kemi Badenoch is on her feet. But Peter Cardwell, absolute shambles last night, utterly humiliating defeat ahead of just the first anniversary of this Prime Minister in office. How bad was it, though?
It was just total shambles. Even 90 minutes before the vote, there were further concessions. The title of this bill is the Universal Credit and Personal Independence Payment Bill. There's nothing in it now about the personal independence payments. Yeah, and the net result of this thing, which was meant to save £5 billion, will now be that it costs £100 million a year. It's absurd. Yeah, it absolutely is extraordinary. In fact, it's very interesting to note. I think I can see Rachel Reeves sitting and Angela Rayner sitting either side of the Prime Minister, flanking him. Let's go straight to the House of Commons right now.
Mr. Speaker, can I first of all take this opportunity to congratulate the member for Rochdale for being the toady of the week, helping the Prime Minister. Yeah. We all know it's
There's a lot of people wanting to catch my eye today. There is some free hits on this side. I won't waste your opportunity.
It's been a difficult week for the Prime Minister. So let's start with something simple. Can the Prime Minister tell the House how much his welfare bill is going to save?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying free school matters on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, in relation to welfare, what we delivered last night was a bill which ends mandatory reassessment of those with severe disabilities. That is the right thing to do. It rebalances universal credit. That is long overdue, and it sets out a pathway to reform of PIP. Mr. Speaker, it's consistent with the principles I set out throughout. If you can work, you should work. If you need help into work, the state should provide the help. The system that they broke doesn't do so. And if you can't work...
I think there's one or two I can spot immediately. Usual voices, same names, please. It's too early to leave the chamber. Prime Minister.
And, Mr. Speaker, if you can't work, you must be supported and protected. The reformed welfare system that we're putting in place will be better for individuals, better for the taxpayer, and better for the economy.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think the Prime Minister actually watched what happened in the House yesterday. His bill was completely gutted. A U-turn in the middle of the debate, removing Clause 5. Where on earth was he? The reason why he can't answer the question is because he knows it doesn't save any money. It's going to cost millions. This is the first Prime Minister in history to propose a bill to save money who ended up with a bill which costs money. So if the bill doesn't cut welfare spending, can the Prime Minister tell the House how many people it will get into work?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad she asked that because it gives me the opportunity to say we've already started changing the job centres and investing in support back into work. The Trailblazer scheme, which is doing exactly what she asked me, which is getting people back into work. The bill last night will help people back into work, and of course the Timms review is ongoing. But I tell you what won't help people back into work, what won't help control the costs, and that is voting to keep the broken system. And that is what they did last night. Everybody in this House accepts that the current system is broken. It invites the question, who broke it? They broke it. And last night, they voted for the status quo. The broken system is their policy. That won't help individuals, taxpayer, and it certainly won't help the economy.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell him what we did on welfare. Yes, they can laugh. While they're laughing, they don't know my party delivered the biggest reform of welfare in government. We got record numbers of people into work, including millions of disabled people, and we cut the deficit every year until COVID. The fact is, we're not scared of doing difficult things on this side of the House. We got people back into work. What he forgets is that since the election, since he became Prime Minister, an additional 1,000 people a day are signing on to incapacity benefits. That is 50% more than under us. 50% more than under us. And, Mr. Speaker, astonishingly, because of the mess they made yesterday, because there are no more savings, sickness benefits alone are set to rise to £100 billion on his watch. He cannot reduce that now. He cannot reduce that now.
Mr. McKee, I think we've had a run-in before. I certainly don't want any more. Seriously. You're obviously not getting your timing right because I can hear your voice every time.
I'll start again, Mr. Speaker. Start again. Sickness benefits, louder for those at the back, sickness benefits are set to rise to £100 billion because of their mess. They cannot now reduce it. They can't reduce it because after last night's humiliating U-turn, we know he cannot control his MPs. They're cheering now, but you signed the amendment. You signed the amendment. Over 100 people signed that reasoned amendment until the bill was completely gutted. He said that he would take the difficult decisions, but isn't the reality that he is too weak to get anything done?
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell them what they did to the welfare system. They broke it. And it's the same as the NHS. What did they do? They broke it. Same as the economy. What did they do? They broke it. They broke everything that they touched. And now she describes the broken system that we are trying to fix. What did she do? She voted against fixing the system that they broke. And I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, and spell that out, they voted last night for the system that is keeping 1 million young people not learning or earning. That is a disgrace of their system. They voted for a system where we have 3 million people out of work on ill health, and they voted for that system. We're fixing it. We're clearing up the mess that they left, just like we're clearing up the NHS and the economy.
He's got some brass neck. Has he read the papers this morning? Has he read the papers this morning? That bill will achieve nothing. It is a pointless waste of time and is absolute proof that he doesn't have a plan. Let me tell the House what's going to happen. In November, the Chancellor is going to put up our taxes to pay for his incompetence. We on this side of the House know that you can't tax your way to growth. But people out there are frightened. People out there...
More putting taxes on.
Yes. These are the same people who cheered when they talked about the NI rise and the jobs tax. Why are they complaining now? People out there are frightened. Can he, Mr. Speaker, can he reassure them by ruling out tax rises in the autumn budget?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she knows that no Prime Minister or Chancellor ever stands at the dispatch box and writes budgets in the future. That isn't what they did, it isn't what we did. And she knows it. But she talks about growth. For 14 years, we had stagnation, and that is what caused the problems. And I'm really pleased, Mr. Speaker, to show the progress that we're making. I can update the House. Last week, Amazon put in £40 billion of investment into this country, one of the biggest investments of its time. That brought the inward investment to £120 billion in the first year of this Labour government. Mr. Speaker, I can also tell the House that business confidence is the highest for 9 years. That's longer than the whole time that the leading opposition's been in Parliament. And the figures this week demonstrated and showed we had the fastest growth in the G7 in the first quarter of this year. What a difference to the mess they left. That's the difference a Labour government made.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about jobs. Unemployment has risen every month since Labour took office. Has he spoken to Nissan, by the way, and looked at what's happening there? This man has forgotten that his welfare bill was there to plug a black hole created by the Chancellor. Instead, they're creating new ones. They're creating new ones. She looks... Mr. Speaker, she's pointing at me. She looks absolutely miserable. Labour MPs, yeah, she looks absolutely miserable. Labour MPs, they can point as much as they like. The fact is, Labour MPs are going on the record saying that the Chancellor is toast, and the reality is that she is a human shield for his incompetence. In January, he said that she would be in post till the next election. Will she really?
Prime Minister. Well, she certainly won't. Mr. Speaker, I have to say I'm always cheered up when she asks me questions or responds to a statement, because she always makes a complete mess of it and shows just how unserious and irrelevant they are. But she talks about the black hole. They left a £22 billion black hole in our economy, and we're clearing it up. And I'm really proud, Mr. Speaker, that in the first year of a Labour government we got free school meals, breakfast clubs, childcare, got £15 billion invested in transport in the North and the Midlands. We're cutting regulation, planning and infrastructure is pounding forward, building 1.5 million homes, the biggest investment in social and affordable housing, and of course, Mr. Speaker, the 3 trade deals. Remember the ones that they couldn't get, including the US trade deal. On Monday, those tariffs came down. That secured the jobs at JLR. That's who we care about on this side of the House.
How awful for the Chancellor that he couldn't confirm that she would stay in place. Yeah. He talks about this year in office. This week marks the first anniversary of Labour coming into office. And let's have it. Yes. The whips can't get them in the lobbies, but they can get them to cheer at the right time. Yeah. The fact is, his own MPs are saying this government is, and I quote, incoherent and shambolic. That's Liverpool Wavertree that said that. I could go on and on. But the fact is, it's been mistake after mistake after mistake. There is no plan to get people into work. There is no plan to cut the welfare budget. There is no strategy. There is just a series of humiliating U-turns like winter fuel, like grooming gangs. Mr. Speaker, what's really shocking is that every other party in this House voted for even more welfare spending yesterday. Yes, those MPs behind him and the Lib Dems and Reform. The Conservative Party believes that this country needs to live within its means. We know what we believe, Mr. Speaker, but this is a Prime Minister who has U-turned on everything he's done in office, including his own speeches, because he doesn't know what he believes. With left-wing Labour MPs now running the government, isn't it working people who will now pay the price?
Mr. Speaker, this is why she always cheers me up. She talks about living within their means, having left a £22 billion black hole. Mr. Speaker, she talks about the first year. I'm really proud of our first year in government. We promised, Mr. Speaker, 2 million extra NHS appointments. We've delivered 4 million. A promise made and a promise delivered. We promised the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation within the first 100 days. Promise made, promise delivered. We promised free breakfast clubs. That's a promise made and a promise delivered. Banning bonuses for water bosses who pollute our rivers. That's the mess they left. A promise made and a promise delivered. Creating GB Energy. A promise made and a promise delivered. The largest increase in defence spending since the last Labour government. A promise made and a promise delivered. Putting more money in the pockets of working people, particularly the 3 million who are the lowest paid through the national minimum wage. A promise made and a promise delivered. We're only getting started, and the Chancellor's led on all these issues, and we're grateful to her for it.
Natasha Iron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
wow. Well, what an exchange. I don't think it's really up for debate there. Peter Cardwell and Claire Pearsall joining me in the studio here at Talk, listening to that was an absolute knockout very early on, and then repeated again and again by Kemi Badenoch. Keir Starmer looked very, very I would say chastened, sort of kind of almost like, unsteady on his feet. You just showed me a video of him.
He was walking out of Downing Street and stumbled slightly, and he stumbled many times during that during those discussions and during those questions. He really just was totally outclassed.
£22 million black hole.
Yeah, just keep saying
that.
Just keep saying it.
Even just now, what was really interesting, now I don't know if you were listening, if you were watching, you would have seen, but if you were listening, you wouldn't be able to see. But it's interesting that on the fifth question, Kemi Badenoch saying that the Chancellor looks absolutely miserable, and saying the Chancellor is toast. I have to say, Rachel Reeves had bags under her eyes like she's not slept for like 3 weeks. She's been at Glastonbury, I don't know. But she genuinely looked like she was about to cry the whole way through that. Did she not, Claire Pearsall?
Yeah, she really did. And unfortunately, she was slumping in her seat, which just made it worse. Those benches are really uncomfortable to sit on, but you have to make the effort to sit up straight. And I think if she did that, she'd lift her whole persona, but she just looked defeated.
And yeah, you can talk about appearances, but look, we were talking about a humiliating calm down by the Prime Minister yesterday, Peter, not being able to get this bill through. We now know, look, a bill that was supposed to save about £5 billion is going to cost a few $100 million. It was going to save £5 billion from the burgeoning, exploding welfare bill. So at some point, taxes are going to have to go up. I don't think you can even do spending cuts.
And Rachel Reeves knows that. Rachel Reeves knows that. She's sitting there knowing that there is pain ahead, that she is going to have to stand up in October, November time and completely and totally contradict what she said a year previously, that taxes were not going to go up on working people. They did anyway with national insurance.
Well, don't you think that the key phrase there from Kemi Badenoch, which she said the Chancellor is toast, she's a human shield
for his incompetence. I wrote that down.
And then Keir Starmer was asking her, will she survive until the next election, and he wouldn't confirm that.
Yes.
He's made a joke. She
won't. Yeah.
Referring to Kemi Badenoch.
And another huge thing. Bringing Keir Starmer coming into the House, loads of MPs, backbenchers cheering him. These are the people who last night made his life pretty much impossible. And there was a great line when she talked about a year on from Labour's victory. Kemi Badenoch talked about that, and she said the whips can't get them in the lobbies, but they can get them to cheer at the right time.
Yeah.
That's just going to be played over and over again, because they sharpened their knives last night, and then this morning they're saying, oh no, Keir Starmer is wonderful.
Now I would say, Claire, you're a Conservative. Okay, you work for the Deputy Speaker, but you were in the Home Office as Special Advisor. Look, that was an open goal. That was an open goal for Kemi Badenoch. But sometimes we do see leaders of the opposition don't score when there's an open goal, and they manage to sort of fumble it. I thought she was incredibly sure-footed. She seemed to be on top of it. Look, one thing we always do when we have these conversations, we're always very clear and very open. If you say, I think Keir Starmer won, I'll say I think Keir Starmer won. He looked so much on the back foot, and it almost felt to me like an awful lot of those Labour backbenchers who inflicted this defeat on him are feeling a little bit worried over how this looks. And Kemi Badenoch saying, have you seen the papers today? Because how this is being played out is not good for the government long term.
No, it isn't. And Kemi Badenoch has actually played a blinder today. She needed this to be good, but I think she has exceeded my expectations, that's for sure. She has done a sterling job at pointing out.
And there was a lot of
how bad
off-the-cuff stuff as well. It wasn't just scripted.
And it was when there was a lot of noise and the Speaker told somebody off for heckling, and she said, I'll start again. Fair play to her. Yeah. She gets a second crack at the question she was asking, and it's more that she looks in control. Keir Starmer looks on the back foot, and he looked really, really rattled.
And of course, you get your clip on the evening news. You don't want to ruin that. But this is one of the things I do like this Speaker. I've got some big question marks about Lindsay Hoyle's expenses and his travel and things lately. But so much. Not John Bercow. Tick. But I do get annoyed when speakers interrupt. Now, of course, if you're in the chamber, if you're actually in the chamber, not even sitting above it in the press gallery, which I used to do every week, you can get to the point where you can't actually hear the question. The noise is so loud. But this telling off in the middle of answers is so frustrating to listen to, isn't it, Claire?
It is frustrating to listen to, but I think what you don't pick up on the microphones is what the heckle was, how loud it was, and how many other people are joining in. And that's what the microphones don't pick up. So I do think it's incumbent upon the chair to actually keep the order. That is what they're there for. So I will actually...
You'll defend that.
Defend that one.
Peter, Kemi just kept coming back on about, this is incompetence by the government, tax is going to go up, a bill that was supposed to save money is now going to cost money. She talked about the Prime Minister having some brass necks, saying he doesn't have a plan, taxes going up in November, criticism of it was quite wide-ranging, but all based on the same point. And the reality is, this is how most voters are going to see this. There'll be people, I mean, the Labour backbenchers feel very pleased with themselves. They feel they've saved some money, saved cuts to disabled constituents. In fact, the point, this was supposed to cut money for people who shouldn't be on disability benefits, not people who are severely disabled and need them. But at the end of the day, they clearly don't understand the magic money tree. One more shake ain't going to provide enough money for the welfare
Well,
payments.
exactly, and they're going to have to put taxes up. But Kemi Badenoch
They're going to have to deal with that.
Yes, they are going to have to deal with that, and I think Rachel Reeves' authority is draining away even more so than Keir Starmer's is. I think she knows that, and she has to be toast.
But he wants to keep her there because she is, as Kemi Badenoch says, his human shield.
Well, he has subcontracted economic policy to her completely. He has no real interest in it.
Or understanding.
He's interested in prancing around the world and being never here.
Well, I mean, she was an economist at the Bank of England for 10 years, and
was
no,
she?
She wasn't. No,
yes,
no,
most of 10 years. I'm most of 10 feet tall, by the way. No, the thing with Rachel Reeves is that she has no authority anymore. But if you get rid of her, well, the buck stops with him. And people have been talking about Rachel Reeves. People have been talking about Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff, this week. Well, actually, it all reflects on Keir Starmer. Kemi Badenoch did what she's there to do, which is opposing. She had her best PMQs ever today.
Absolutely, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm normally very, very critical, but she did a very, very good job.
Absolutely. Now you're leaving us now, Peter, but you're standing in for Ian Collins at 1 o'clock. I think the heat finally got to him. Maybe he's just going to enjoy sitting, not being sweltering hot. I think, let's face it, people have only come in this week because we had air conditioning. We could barely get Tom out of the studio yesterday. He's like, no, I want to stay here.
And to argue that you should be in a banknote, Julia.
I should be on a
50.
Well,
20.
When I'm an empress, I am empress. Then I should be on the banknote. I think we're all agreed, right?
I think so.
Although, again, I'm going to take a tip out of the Ayatollahs around. I think Supreme Leader.
Supreme Leader, right? Yeah.
All right, let's have a vote on it, like Boaty McBoatface. Let's have a national vote.
Julia McJulia face.
Julia McJulia face. It's all gone wrong.